What's up guys, it's been a minute since I last made a video on the boxer on this channel, but I have been continually keeping up with it because it is just that good. I might pick it up again as a read-through series, but for now, I'm going to do a little recap kind of video up to chapter 30 and just talk about all my favorite moments so far. Let's get right into it. I love this webtoon so much. So this is like a highlight reel of what has happened in the last 30 chapters and my thoughts on it. So in chronological order, this is what got me hella hyped. So the first thing is when Yu dodges Coach K's punch. This was the first time we saw Yu dodge a punch, and my goodness, was it hype. I didn't appreciate it enough when I first read it, but to know a full speed punch is coming with your back turn, that's just crazy. And that was a fire way of introducing us to Yu and just how deadly he is and how insane his reflexes are, basically. So that was a nice little introduction in the early chapter. Also, just want to say this. The Boxer had one of my favorite first few opening chapters of any manhwa, possibly. Because it spends the majority of chapter 1 hyping up Albino Bakugo to be like the super talented chosen one. And so all the readers are thinking, okay, this guy's gonna be one of the main characters and he's super OP. But then at the end of chapter 1, you see like this underdog in the back of the gym, and you realize that Albino Bakugo is a character that we never see again in later chapters. He's only there for Yu's development, and Yu is actually the real fighter. At chapter 8, Albino Bakugo, who we thought was OP, literally just becomes a punching bag for Yu. And I just love that opening so much. The next hype moment, as you might have guessed, was in chapter 8 when Yu unleashed his power for the first time while only doing the 1-2 punch combination. He does the 1-2 perfectly after seeing Coach K perform it once in front of him, and he just obliterates Albino Bakugo. He literally hospitalizes the man. Like, that's Black Air Force One energy, man. Another moment I'm going to mention is in chapter 13 when we see Yu go into a sparring match with an orange-haired dude. I think his name was Josh or something. And here we see that he really sees every punch in slow-mo. Yu doesn't get hit a single time, and he just knocks out the dude with one punch. It was so sick. But there's another cool moment in the exact same chapter towards the end. So before Yu knocked the lights out of Josh, the red orange-haired dude, Josh learned that there was another talented boxer that Coach K was thinking of bringing. And so Josh asked Yu if he is as strong as that other boxer, if Josh is. And so everyone's thinking that Yu will be talking about Albino Bakugo, but then instead he thinks of the glasses guy when Josh is asking about the other strong boxer. How hype is that, man? Like, instead of thinking about strength as just a combat ability, he thought of strength as being something more than that. He thought of it as being like when you never give up, basically. Like, scrolling through that, it made it seem like I was watching an inspirational movie or something. Next moment, chapter 15, man. It's Yu's debut match against the rookie killer dude, John Taker. When their fight starts, he sees a gun instead of Yu.
Bruh.
His jab creates a clean cut. Like, his first jab created a clean cut in Taker's face. How scary is that, bro? Like, fighting someone in the ring and his first jab just gives you a clean scratch to the face. Like, oh my gosh, that's just terrifying. To be fair though, man, I did like the Taker guy as sort of like a villain. His backstory was pretty cool for a minor character, and he had like inspiration in that backstory. And it's really unfortunate that he was made out to be a villain by like the Boxing Federation, but it was equally cool when he was telling his coach as they were like watching the sunset, he was like, every story needs a villain, you know? And that kind of stuff's cool. It's always cool to read. Again, that was kind of like a movie. So I think Yu versus John Taker, that was like the perfect first fight for all of us to see. Because one, we get introduced to how terrifying Yu is, because this man got that strong after only doing cardio training for like 2 years, and also introduces us to how unique each of Yu's opponents are actually going to be, and how each of them have a different backstory. Alright, so next we got Qasim Al-Jahad. He got introduced in chapter 20, and he's set up to be the super strong guy. Once again, it's the same thing with Albino Bakugo. Like, he's set up to be the super strong character, only to get obliterated by Yu later on. So leading up to the fight between Yu and Qasim Al-Jahad, we see Yu training, and so this is another hype moment right here. At the end of chapter 22, we see Yu, and he has punched holes through a pile of sandbags. We see how Yu's training is equally as scary as when he fights people, and so that was just another hype moment for me at the end of chapter 22. Anyways, Yu completely annihilates Qasim in the next chapter. My man gets rocked. And then after Yu hits him a couple more times, he runs out of the ring. You have to understand, like, the guy Qasim had a huge ego from all the fights that he's won probably, and pretty sure he was undefeated before facing you also. So he was set up to be like this super talented guy, and then he got so scared of you that he crawls out of the ring. Like, that's just mind-boggling. The whole fight got my heart pumping just because you, like, again, his face never changes. But like seeing the fear in Qasim Al-Jahad's face, this guy who had like a huge ego and actually tried to punch you when he was training, like he was running, like the fact that he got so scared after a couple punches and then ran out of the ring, that is super hype. Then we got the boy, Jean-Pierre Manhwa. This is like towards the end, chapter 28, 29, 30. Yu's latest opponent, who is a defending lightweight champion. Honestly, this guy's kind of weird. He's kind of sus, I'm not gonna lie. But he was kind of badass when he was going around beating up street thugs as sort of like a vigilante figure. He sort of turned to John Wick, basically. And he did the Sherlock Holmes a couple times when he was fighting people in chapter 27. And like, he unlocked his killer instinct and stuff. He was planning out every move. Kind of cool to see. Like, seeing stuff that's outside of the ring is always really cool because, you know, it's like sort of like a real life fighting comic. And that stuff's always cool. But anyway, definitely one of my favorite moments when this guy Jean is like going around beating people. And then at the end, when he's about to die from a gunshot, he unlocks the killer instinct. Jean, after punching the guy that was about to shoot him, he realized that that's how Yu feels all the time. And that's kind of frightening if you think about it, because that means Yu is experiencing death every single moment of his life. And so if Yu really sees his surroundings like that all the time, I feel like that might be why he's so desensitized. But, you know, that's just a theory. And then the big fight between Yu and Jean. You can skip this part if you haven't read up to chapter 30. But this was a crazy fight. The descriptions of how the two fighters feel, how everything moves in slow motion, everything was sick about this fight. Yu absolutely destroys the man, as we all expected, but it's so sick every time to see Yu depicted in the art style as this like devil figure, and that whoever he's fighting is just completely helpless and like on their knees. Like, that's always so badass to see, like Yu as this gigantic just god. And he's just a different breed. So that was so amazing. So I think for me, those were all the highlights of chapters 1 through 30. At this point, the Korean Raws have been released up to, I think, chapter 50 or so. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to read in Korean. But I actually think the English translation is just as good and possibly more fun to read than the Korean version. And that's kind of rare because usually the Korean writing tends to be more epic or more sort of stylistically grand, in my opinion. But the English translators over at Webtoon are doing a really, really good job. Like, they're translating all of the like stylistic elements and just basically everything super well. So shout out the translators at Webtoon. You guys are doing a killer job. So I might just wait around until the English translations come out, honestly, to read them. Let me know down in the comments if I should continue with this read-through series of The Boxer. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, let me know your thoughts on this Webtoon, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.